Every time Keanu Reeves steps into the light, he is carrying a weight that would crush a normal man. We praise his kindness, but we ignore the terrifying mistake he made in 1991 that haunts his every interaction. The world sees a humble movie star, but psychologists see a man who has mastered the art of the void. There is a hidden truth about his 20-year stint living in hotels that reveals the darkest part of his psyche. By the end of this analysis, you will understand the specific, unspoken reason why Keanu refuses to touch the people he poses with in photos. And it isn't just about respect. It's about a survival mechanism forged in blood. To understand Keanu, we must go back to Beirut. Born to a father who would later be imprisoned for large-scale heroin trafficking, Keanu's foundation was built on early paternal abandonment. His dyslexia wasn't just a learning disability. It forced him to become an auditory learner. This developed his hyper-focused ability to listen, a trait that would later define his minimalist acting style. In the late 80s, Keanu met his shadow self, River Phoenix. They weren't just friends. They were two sides of the same sensitive coin in a Hollywood that demanded calloused skin. When River died on the sidewalk of the Viper Room, Keanu didn't just lose a friend. He lost the only person who understood the specific isolation of their shared hyperempathy. Psychologically, this triggered a defensive detachment. If the things you love die, you stop owning things. You stop building roots. You become a ghost in your own life. Then came 1999. While the world was celebrating The Matrix, Keanu was entering a literal hell. His daughter Ava was stillborn. Weeks later, his partner Jennifer Syme died in a violent car crash. Most people break. Keanu pivoted to extreme Stoicism. He adopted the philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, believing that while we cannot control what happens, we can control our internal response. This is why he lived in the Chateau Marmont for years. Owning a home meant having a place for the ghosts to settle. By staying in transit, he remained untouchable by the permanence of grief. Notice his physical presence. Keanu is one of the few actors who utilizes the quiet ego. In psychology, this is a state where one's self-concern is turned down to better perceive the world. His commitment to martial arts, specifically jiu-jitsu and judo, is not just for films. It is a somatic therapy. He uses physical pain and discipline to ground a mind that has every reason to dissociate. There is a rare altruism in his psychology. He famously gave away $75 million of his Matrix earnings to the VFX and costume teams. But why? This is prosocial compensation. By shedding wealth, he sheds the ego identity that he believes leads to suffering. He is practicing a secular form of Buddhism known as sunyata, or emptiness. Consider the sad Keanu meme. While the internet laughed, it was a glimpse into the long grief. This is a psychological state where mourning becomes a background radiation rather than an acute event. He once said, "Grief changes shape, but it never ends." This acceptance is the core of his resilience. He doesn't try to get over it. He integrates the loss into his DNA. Keanu's lack of scandals is statistically impossible for a star of his magnitude. This suggests a high level of agreeableness in the big five personality traits, but with a low neuroticism shield. His hover hand photos are a fascinating case study in boundary setting. By not touching others, he maintains a psychological barrier that protects his internal energy from the drain of public demand. He operates on hypervigilance. Growing up with an unstable father and shifting homes, he learned to read rooms and people with terrifying accuracy, allowing him to navigate the sharks of Hollywood. This leads to his work ethic of the damned. For John Wick, he trained 8 hours a day for months. This isn't just professional, it's sublimation, the act of turning dark energy into creative output. Keanu doesn't act as John Wick. He channels the universal feeling of losing everything and having nothing left to fear. The character is his psychological avatar. But what about that secret mistake? The one from 1991 that changed everything. It happened on the set of my own private Idaho. Keanu pushed River Phoenix to take the role of Mike Waters. He believed the film would be their legacy. He didn't realize that the role would plunge River into the drug subculture that eventually killed him. For decades, Keanu has carried the secret guilt that he was the catalyst for his best friend's spiral. This is the survivor's guilt that fuels his relentless kindness today. He is kind not because he is a saint, but because he knows exactly how easy it is to destroy someone with a single choice. Every gesture of respect is an atonement. His hidden truth is that Keanu Reeves is not fine. He is a master of high-functioning melancholy. He has built a life where sadness and joy coexist without canceling each other out. When Stephen Colbert asked him what happens when we die, Keanu didn't give a religious answer. He said, "I know that the ones who love us will miss us." That sentence is the key to his entire psychology. He lives for the missing. He is the living monument to every person he has lost. The secret of Keanu Reeves isn't that he's the internet's boyfriend. It's that he is the only man in Hollywood who has realized that the only thing you can truly own is your own silence. The price he paid was everything. And the result is a man who finally understands that being the one means being comfortable with being absolutely no one at all.